Good morning on this Wednesday, March the 3rd, 2021. Let it be known, we're going to talk about environmental justice this morning and environmental injustice with Dr. Tonya Calhoun. Dr. Tonya Calhoun is of Moms Clean Air Force. We will have that discussion later this morning. But right now, let's bring in our president and CEO, Dr. Ben Chavez. Good morning, Dr. Chavez.
Good morning, Stacey. How are you? And we're so pleased to be back this morning on behalf of the Black Press of America, the National Newspaper Publishers Association, Karen Carter Richards, our distinguished chair, and all of our 230 members of the National Newspaper Publishers Association. This is another day of news, and we're glad to let it be known here with you.
Well, we'll start off, Dr. Chavez, on a somber note. Vernon Jordan, the former National Urban League president and civil rights leader, has died at the age of 85. Vicki Jordan Adams, the icon's daughter, confirmed his death on Tuesday. NAACP President Derek Johnson said the world lost an influential figure in the fight for civil rights and American politics. In 2001, Mr. Jordan received the NAACP's Spingarn Medal for a lifetime of social justice activism. Congressional Black Caucus Chair Karen Bass sent this statement to the Black press. For decades, Mr. Jordan fought for the advancement of civil rights in this country. His contributions, the first challenging segregation and discrimination as an activist in the 1960s and later continuing the fight in the leadership of the NAACP, the United Negro College Fund, and then as president of the National Urban League, benefited us all. Dr. Chavez, I know that you are also feeling the loss of Vernon Jordan.
Absolutely. Vernon Jordan, Attorney Vernon Jordan, and I were colleagues, graduates of Howard University. He was on Howard University's board. On the picture that you showed of President Clinton, Vice President Gore, and Vernon Jordan, that was during the time when Vernon was the chair of the Clinton-Gore transition team. I was on the transition team when Bill Clinton won the election. And so that November and December and January before he was sworn into office, I was spending every day with Vernon Jordan as a member of the Clinton-Gore transition team. Got to know him. He was a great, not only civil rights leader, but also a business leader. And he challenged corporate America to be more inclusive, to be more diverse. We're certainly going to miss him, but when we have a major icon that passed, our responsibility is to pick up that baton and continue to run the race, to keep his legacy alive, to keep his memory alive. So long live the spirit and the memory of Vernon Jordan.
Yeah, and Dr. Chavez, according to the most recent statistics from the Federal Bureau of Investigation, approximately 40% of the 425,000 missing children in America are Black. Specifically, 156,000 African-American children under the age of 18 are missing and unaccounted for. The National Newspaper Publishers Association will continue its series on the plight of missing African-American girls and include young boys of color who have disappeared. Throughout the series, which began in 2019, a common theme emerged. Black children who go missing receive far less media coverage and police priority than white children. According to Sherry Jefferson of the African American Juvenile Justice Project, preliminary matters, the media reports what the police report or what is trending and deemed newsworthy. Sherry Jefferson said, therefore, Black children are less likely to get Amber Alerts or other alerts, including the America's Missing broadcast emergency response. So, Dr. Chavez, this is a crucial matter that we are following in the Black press. All of these missing children, well over 100,000, 156,000 under the age of 18, African Americans are missing and unaccounted for.
Exactly. And overwhelmingly, the majority of them are Black girls. And that's why we took that leadership, and we're going to continue this year to have a series on missing Black girls, missing Black boys, missing Black children. We cannot afford to permit this society to allow the abduction, the missing, the abuse of our children. And so I'm so proud that the Black press is going to continue to take this lead you notice that the mainstream media does not report or does not highlight these statistics or this serious problem. So it's a part of the systematic racism, the systematic white supremacy, not only in the criminal justice system, but in the social justice system, in the economic justice system. I know our guest today is going to talk about environmental justice. So all of these various places is economic, environment, social, racial. That's what we mean by systematic racism, and we have to challenge this racism in all of its manifestations. So yes, we will continue to focus on the missing Black children.
Oh, absolutely. And our final news topic this morning, it's a good one. Music legend Tina Turner is the subject of one of the most successful biopics ever made, but she tells the makers of a new documentary there's much more to her story. Tina is screening out of competition at the 71st Berlin Film Festival, which runs until Friday. It's by Oscar-winning director Dan Lindsay and TJ Martin. It premiered already yesterday, and it traces Tina Turner's 6-decade career as an unlikely triumph over abuse and discrimination, paired with the musical about her that had its Broadway premiere in 2019 until the pandemic shut it down. The film is billed as the 81-year-old Turner's farewell to her legions of fans. The documentary includes emotional interviews with the singer in which she recounts her childhood of grinding poverty, picking cotton in the Tennessee fields, her singing debut with violent husband Ike, and her lonely years, even as the world's top female rock star. She explained that the story behind her and Ike, why it became such a public story, was because reporters kept asking her about Ike, and even after they split. And she said finally she just let it out why she wouldn't talk about Ike, and then they decided to make a movie about it. But Tina Turner, Tina is the name of the new documentary that's screening at the Berlin Film Festival. What a legacy that Tina Turner has and continues. She says this is a farewell to her fans. She's hanging them up for good, she said, Dr. Chavis.
Well, after 6 decades of performing, 6 decades of outstanding leadership, again, not only in the United States, but all over the world, Tina Turner is an icon, a living icon. So she deserves to take a break, to take a rest, and we should salute her. Again, this is a great way to celebrate Women's History Month, then to lift up those women who have not only passed away, but lift up those women who are still alive, who are still making a difference. So on behalf of the Black press of America, we salute Tina Turner.
Absolutely. And Dr. Chavis, from her earliest memories, Dr. Tonya Howard Calhoun said she can still recall the pain that pollution caused her loved ones and herself. At the age of 8, she developed chronic bronchitis and other respiratory issues. The effects of these conditions would eventually be exacerbated by pollution from nearby oil refineries and other plants that pollute the air. At night, when her lymph nodes were swollen and she was short of breath, her mother would prop her upright in bed so she could sleep. Air pollution literally turned her life around in the worst way. Here to talk about it is Dr. Tonya Calhoun herself. Good morning, Dr. Calhoun.
Good morning. Good morning. Great morning, actually. I'm so happy to be here, Mr. Brown. And Dr. Chavis, oh my goodness, Mr. Wilmington Tin himself. I'm just happy to share this platform. Congratulations on 194 years of being the voice of the African American community. And, that's why I'm here to share my voice. Yes, Mr. Brown, I developed chronic bronchitis. I would have strep throat 3 times a year, to the point where, it was like clockwork. My mother would call the doctor and the doctor would say, what month is it? Is it April, August, or November? Oh, it's August. Just going up to Eckerd, get her prescription and call me in a week, because this was just how horrific the air pollution affected my little life at 8. But we know it's not just limited to my home state of Louisiana. And, we can talk about that a little broader. In my adopted city of Atlanta, there are places in this area where there's an F grade for the air quality. And this is from the American Lung Association. So it's very serious. It's very serious.
Yeah. And Dr. Calhoun, you're with Mom's Clean Air Force. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So we are in our 10th year. We are Mom's Clean Air Force. We are not the Air Force. However, we are a force for clean air. So we are a community of over 1 million moms and dads and aunts and uncles and cousins that are united to fight against air pollution and fight for our children's health. And so through our awesome network of state-based field organizers that are in 14 states, most recently here in Georgia, we have a field organizer. We work on both national and local policy issues. And so our moms, they meet with lawmakers of every level of government and on both sides of the political aisle to build the support for equitable, just, and healthy solutions for our children and our families against pollution. So that's Mom's Clean Air Force.
Yeah, and you said Mr. Wilmington 10. He's also Mr. Environmental Justice. Dr. Chavez, I'm gonna throw it over to you.
I love it.
Well, thank you, and best regards to Dr. Tonya Calhoun. We thank you for your leadership. I used to do a lot of environmental justice work down in Louisiana, particularly doing the strip of highway and land and communities called Cancer Alley. But, you know, Dr. Calhoun, in Harlem today, 60% of all the children there have asthma, you know, and it's because of our poor air quality and how they distribute these toxins in the air, particularly around communities that are Black or Latino, Asian, Native American, people of color, have the worst air to breathe. So we need clean air, we need clean water, we need fresh food. All these things come together. But I want to thank you. So tell us about, you know, after growing up in Louisiana, how did you become an environmental activist? In this case, a clean air activist. To give us a little sense of your journey.
Man, so, you know, again, grew up in Louisiana. I decided to come to Atlanta for college. I went to Spelman College.
Great.
And, you know, right next door to Spelman College, there's somebody who's known as what? Our Mr. Environmental Justice, Dr. Robert Bullard.
Yes.
And so, you know, he has been using this phrase since the 1970s and 80s. You know, he was the one who taught us that the environmental justice movement grew out of grassroots community struggles committed to what? A simple principle that all people and communities are entitled to equal protection, whether it's environmental, energy, health, employment, education, so many different things. And so, you know, I began to learn through Dr. Robert Bullard, you know, that low income and communities of colors, they're at the greater risk of environmental and health related harms than more affluent populations. And so, you know, he brought to light all this institutionalized discrimination in the housing market, the lack of zoning, decisions by public officials, you know, being those major factors contributing to Black neighborhoods becoming the dumping grounds, or as you mentioned, you know, in my home state where Cancer Alley is, those sacrificial grounds for trash and toxins. And so, you know, that's where my interest in environmental justice began when I was in college. And, you know, it's so interesting coming to Atlanta. My breathing and my condition improved, which is so crazy because we still have that F grade here in Atlanta, but it was a little better than it was in Louisiana. And so I said, you know, let me begin to learn more about the air, learn about these environmental injustices that Dr. Robert Bullard is talking about. And so, you know, I began to become an advocate for clean air in that way. Now, it wasn't until 2018 that I came onto the Mom's Clean Air Force team to begin a program called Community RX. And so it is a program where we advocate for our African American communities. Like Dr. Chavez mentioned, you know, 1 in 9 Black children have asthma. You know, we are 3 times more likely than our non-Hispanic counterparts to be in the hospital over and over and over again for asthma. You know, over 1 million families, African American families, live within a mile of those oil refineries. And so that was my interest. That is my interest. And at Mom's Clean Air Force, you know, we, Mr. Brown, I heard you say one of your shows that all great achievements require time. And at Moms Clint Air Force, we've got the time. We got the time to fight for justice in every breath, recognizing the importance of equitable solutions for addressing air pollution. So we got the time.
Well, we want to thank you. I happened to coin the term environmental racism in 1982 when we were fighting PCB dump in Warren County, North Carolina. And Dr. Robert Bullard and I, we became colleagues. We have worked together not only in the 1980s and 1990s, even up to today. He's a distinguished professor now at Texas Southern University.
Yes.
And the environmental justice movement certainly not only appreciated his research, his leadership. And we had, and one of the great things about the environmental justice movement, which I'm sure you know, Dr. Calhoun, is the leadership of sisters, women, man. All these communities across the country, Black women are standing up, demanding justice, demanding equal justice, and demanding environmental justice. And so this is a subject matter that we need to make sure that all African Americans, all people of color, continue to champion. And just one other note, now, it's a global movement. The environmental justice movement is just not in the United States, it's all over the world. The climate change movement is all over the world, and certainly clean air movement is all over the world. So what you're doing now is going to have implications not only for thousands and millions of people in Georgia, but all over the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. I appreciate that. One of the legislations that Moms Clint Air Force is working on right now, or partnering with, if you will, with Dr. Representative Alma Adams and Representative Lauren Underwood. They introduced this legislation called Black Maternal Health Omnibus.
Yes.
And so, it's a suite of 12 individual bills that literally address every dimension of the Black maternal health crisis. We want to transform the lives of Black mothers and babies for the better. And one of the things that we're most proud of is the fact that part of that suite of bills is something that's addressing the climate-related issues that impact mothers who are pregnant, specifically Black mothers. And so we are doing everything that we can to ensure that this particular Momnibus package it's loud when we talk about it. It's helping our pregnant Black mothers understand we hear your voice, we hear your concern, we hear that you may not be treated the same at the doctor's office. We hear the concerns of the stuff that you're breathing in the air, and we want to make sure that we are doing everything to provide support for these Black mothers. So I appreciate that nod to what we're doing, because it's important. It's very important.
Absolutely. And want to say good morning to Lynn Spivey, James Wright, David Youngblood, Annette Phillips, of course, Don Wagner from Cincinnati. It's always a pleasure to have you. And Bobby Henry down in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, our publisher at the West Side Gazette. Good morning, Bobby. Bobby says, in fact, he says, Dr. Chavez, you are a true fighter on all fronts of injustices. Thank you. And you too, Dr. Tonya Calhoun. Dr. Calhoun, you mentioned the F grade for Atlanta. Other places, where are you finding, where's Moms Clean Air finding challenges in other areas?
Oh, wow. Great question. One of the most recent findings, if you will, I'll just say findings, is in Michigan. I'm not going to call out the plant, but we had a super mom, is what we call our volunteers, who was demanding justice for a company that was emitting all kinds of fumes in a neighborhood, of course, in a fenced community. And basically what that means, the backyard, your fence lines directly up with this particular company, this petrochemical company. And, it's of course in an area where there are African Americans. And so Michigan, this particular supermom did everything that she could. She got with the lawmakers, she attended town hall meetings. She made it loud that there are issues in Michigan as well, that, where the air is not clean, we're not heard, and we want justice. In Florida, we have supermoms in Florida fighting for again, those fence line communities where there are companies that are emitting fumes in the air as well. Gosh, we're also in Ohio. There are situations in Nevada. There are situations in Arizona. And so we are fighting loud. We are fighting proud to protect these communities where there are air monitoring problems. So we are everywhere.
Wow. Yeah, I see what David Youngblood says. West Dallas citizens have been fighting a toxic waste site since he was in high school.
Wow.
45 years, I guess 45 years ago. That's a long time, Dr.
That's a
Calhoun.
long time. That's a long time. And you think about Cancer Alley, you know, this is generations
Yeah.
of, you know, these places emitting these chemicals. Think about it. A generation is 20 years. I said, this is generations.
Yeah.
This has been happening, you know, for years. And it's just not, it's not right. We have a right to breathe clean air. And as long as we are around at Moms Clean Air Force, we are going to be loud about that right. We're going to be loud about talking with our lawmakers to ensure that we are heard and that there are just different legislation to protect these communities. It's been going on too long.
So, Dr. Calhoun, tell us about your family. You know, you're a mom's Clean Air Force. Tell us about what is it like being a mom and an activist at the same time.
So here's the interesting thing. I am not a biological mother, but honey, let me tell you, I have a goddaughter, I have a godson, I have a niece. I work shoulder to shoulder with women at Moms Clean Air Force that have children. And so, you know, I am proud to have these surrogate babies. You know,
Right.
I'm proud to fight for the ladies who I work with, their children. And so,
Yes.
you know, I, again, don't have biological children. However, these are my babies.
Exactly.
And I feel like, you know.
Right. The reason why I asked you that question, because I wanted you to make that point. That,
Okay.
you know, back in the civil rights movement, our moms, there were many moms. The biological moms, movement moms. You're a movement mom.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? We used to call them MMs. You're a movement mom. And the thing is, I think it's so important that we elevate the importance of Black women leadership.
That's right.
Not only during Black History Month, not only during Women's History Month, but 12 months during the year, states that we need to do more to lift up these movement moms. And that's why I asked the question. I know you have many children that you're protecting and hoping that they will get clean air. And we just want to encourage you. And I want to offer to you by the Black press an opportunity, you know, periodically to write a column for us about environmental justice, about air pollution. And I hope you're writing your book too about Moms Clean Air Force. That's a great story. It's a resilient story. It's a responsive story. A lot of times, and I caution a lot of brothers and sisters in the movement, we should not wallow or just immerse ourselves just in our suffering. We have to rise up and stand up and do something about it. And that's what I'm so, there's a triumphant story about Moms Clean Air Force. And we just want to thank you for sharing your story with us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And I encourage our listening audience, get involved with us. You know, I know we're still in the middle of a global pandemic. You're at home with the babies, but you can get involved with us through what we call armchair activism. And so, you know, it's listening to our sessions that we have, listen to our live events, arming yourself with the wealth of knowledge that we provide on our website so you too can become a climate activist, as well as signing our petitions, our action alerts. And so we're online, www.momscleanairforce.org. And when you look online, if there's not a field organizer in your state, there is a coordinator that can help you to become a force for clean air, just like we are. So thank you so much for allowing me to
give out your website. How can people get in touch with you?
Absolutely. So my email address is tcalhoun@momscleanairforce.org. And then again, our website is www.momscleanairforce.org. We would love to have you.
Great. And it's funny because you answered the question that I was going to ask about contact. But the other thing, since you answered that, I'm going to just throw this out there from Bobby Henry. He says environmental racism has left Black communities especially vulnerable to COVID-19. Your thoughts on that?
COVID-19 exasperated what we already knew about these African American communities. We're already susceptible to high blood pressure, asthma, cancer. And, when COVID-19 snuck in, if you will, my goodness, it just exasperated those conditions. And, there were times when it's like, oh, stay inside. Oh, wait, don't stay inside all the time. Go outside to make sure you're breathing fresh air to keep you calm. And, oftentimes in these fence line communities, you can't go outside and breathe the fresh air because that's what you've been fighting for, in addition to now having to fight, off COVID-19. And so it brought light to the fact that, African Americans are in these communities where we already have these lack of environmental resources, water, land, soil, tree canopy. And so it's like, yeah, go outside and breathe this fresh air, but I can't go outside and breathe this fresh air because I don't really have it. So COVID-19 just exasperated what we already knew about these African American communities. So that's an excellent point.
Yeah. Dr. Chavis, your final thoughts?
Well, again, I want to thank Dr. Calhoun for her leadership. And I was just going to say, when the media focuses on the pre-existing conditions that makes African Americans more vulnerable to COVID-19, the ultimate pre-existing condition is racism. Oh. The ultimate pre-existing condition is white supremacy. So it's in the air we breathe, it's in the water we drink, it's in the food that we eat, it's in the communities where we're housed. It's in the prisons and jails that they put us. It's how, people driving while Black, riding while Black, walking while Black. Now it's breathing while Black.
Yes.
Unreal. Well, Women's History Month. Today we think about Jean Boone. Jean Boone, the publisher of the Richmond Free Press. She was born March 14th, 1943 in Columbia, South Carolina, to Helen Patterson and Daniel Patterson. Boone graduated from C.A. Johnson High School in Columbia in 1960 and went on to earn her B.A. degree in sociology and anthropology from Dillard University in New Orleans. She received a MS degree in social work in 1966 from Boston University, and after graduating there, she moved to Richmond, Virginia, where her husband, Raymond Boone Sr., was editor of the Richmond Afro-American. She became an adjunct professor of education at Virginia Commonwealth University and worked as the associate director for housing and economic development for the Urban League of Richmond. In 1981, Jean Boone joined the Children's Defense Fund as the director of state and local affairs, serving until 1989. Later, she served as the manager of community affairs and marketing for the Baltimore Symphony Orchestra. Jean Boone had an array of experience in various different fields. Under the leadership of she and her husband, the Richmond Free Press's accomplishments were recognized by the Virginia Press Association, the Virginia Trial Lawyers Association, the National Newspaper Publishers Association, the NAACP, and the Virginia Legislative Black Caucus. In 2001, the newspaper was the recipient of the Best in Commercial Renovation Award in recognition of its leadership during a downtown revitalization project. Jean Boone was honored by the YWCA of Greater Richmond with the 2004 Outstanding Women in Communications Award. And she also was honored by Hats Off to Women, which was hosted by the American Business Women's Association. Jean Boone and her late husband had two children, Regina and Raymond Jr., and a grandson named Raymond III. We think about our publisher, Jean Boone, today. So let it be known, it is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. We will see you tomorrow.